Taking down the Cardinals yesterday out in Arizona. Now their attention will shift to a huge game on Sunday at Pittsburgh. The game notable for many reasons, but the big one, Steelers quarterback happens to be Aaron Rodgers, going to be facing the Packers for the first time in his career. 3 years since he was playing for Green Bay, looking to become the fifth quarterback in NFL history to beat all 32 teams. Kick on Sunday night is set for 7:20. Turn to the Badgers. They're getting ready for a trip to number 6 Oregon. They're doing so in a firestorm of criticism of Coach Luke Fickell and calls for him to be fired. AD Chris McIntosh tried to extinguish some of those in two moves in the last week. One, speaking to the team about Fickell's future, and then sending out an email today in support of Fickell and pledging to provide more money to the program for his part. Fickell says he has not been told anything about his job status for next year.
I don't think any of us have a crystal ball. I've never asked the question. It's not something that I can dwell upon. I can't tell you that it's not something that you don't think about. I'm not saying it's something when you go home, your wife doesn't look at you, but it doesn't do us any good. It's not going to change the fact that we got to practice tomorrow. It's not going to change the fact of anything on Saturday. I guess you just let everybody else kind of deal with those things. But I have not been told.
Again, Wisconsin is at Oregon on Saturday.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Bucs going to be getting their season going on Wednesday night against Washington at Fiserv Forum. Will be a return of Chris Middleton for the Wizards, while Wisconsin going to be there on Friday for an exhibition game against Oklahoma. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Where do you feel like you are? It's what, 6 games in.
A long way
Offense.
a long way away from being the team that we want to become. From the moment we got on the trip, nothing seemed to go right. In game, there was a lot of things that didn't go right, but the guys kept battling, and that's what it takes in this league. And it's encouraging that we haven't played our best ball.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Just a little bit from Matt LaFleur after the game yesterday. I'm not trying to lead the show or overemphasize anything that he said there. I just thought it was interesting commentary. Pete Doherty asking him, where do you think you are as a team? And he was actually trying to ask, where do you think you are as an offense through 6 games or whatever it's been? And LaFleur basically cut him off and said, not close to where we want to be at the end of the year, which I'm actually fine with because it's October 20th. I don't know that any team in the NFL is exactly where they want to be. I just found that to be an interesting comment from Matt LaFleur. And then a little bit of a summary. They had issues with their plane. And I think when we saw that news on Saturday night, we all went, oh boy. Because it's been a while, but it used to be pretty common to poke fun and to joke about Matt LaFleur's inability to deal with travel, specifically to different time zones, to the West Coast or down to Florida. It's been a while, a little bit of a throwback when that headline came out. The Packers were stuck on their plane for however many hours. People go, oh boy, fun. A little bit of a throwback Matt LaFleur topic. So again, not trying to lead the show. I just picked some comments from Matt LaFleur, threw them in the intro. I found both of those comments interesting. No motive in playing those comments, not trying to take the show anywhere. That's just what jumped out to me. And honestly, I need a 10-second comment and that one fit. So that's why it went in there. It's the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Hope you had a great weekend. It was beautiful outside. Got to play a little golf, spent some time, a lot of time outside on Saturday. I did not watch much of the Badger game. I watched the third quarter. At that point, the game was over, and I feel comfortable saying that without being a jerk because I listened to Zach and Jesse on the camp when I was eating lunch, and they said, yeah, these games have all kind of been over at halftime. Okay, so if they can say it, I feel like I'm not talking out of turn or being over dramatic when I say it. It was beautiful outside. I had things going on. I'm not, no. You want my full 4 hours, win a Power 4 game. So I watched the third quarter. I probably wouldn't even bring up the Badgers tonight if not for the statement that Chris McIntosh put out earlier this morning. So I do want to talk about that because I think that's a little bit more interesting than, Wisconsin got blasted by Ohio State, which we all suspected. The statement from Chris McIntosh is interesting. There's some goodies in there that are worth discussing. So we'll get to that. We'll also get to the Brewers. They got eliminated, which we kind of knew would be the case on Friday. We considered it done, but we can ask some bigger picture, more wider reaching questions about the NLCS. And I don't even want to say what went wrong. I don't feel like anything went wrong. It's just not a single thing went right, which maybe those two things are one and the same. But we'll mix in some Brewers talk and some Badgers talk tonight. But Packers will be the main event. They beat the Cardinals yesterday in what I thought turned out to be a pretty fun game. Reaction from Packers fans that I've heard throughout the day, not quite as kind with their framing of what went down yesterday. So that'll be the main portion of tonight's show, and your phone call is a big part of that as we react to a Packer game the day after, a little bit of an extended post-game show. 608-321-1670 is the number. Comment on the live stream as well, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. I recommend just watching and listening always on the Wisco Sports Zone app. That's the hub for all of our shows. You can listen and watch the live streams, and all the podcasts are available, not just Ebo, Bill, and me, morning, midday, evening drive, but Zach and Jesse on the camp and all the stuff that they're posting and publishing. It's all right there. So I would download the app. And then if you're traveling or you don't have a radio, you just always have that thing ready to go. Everything I said about last weekend's game against the Bengals mostly applies to yesterday as well. The game was a little different. It followed a slightly different script, progressed a little bit differently, took a little bit different path. But I think spiritually, the way that Packers fans feel about it is very similar. I get that Packers fans want to see this team blow doors. I want to see this team blow doors. I would love to watch them rout a team 42-10, see Jordan Love eating popcorn with a clipboard in the fourth quarter. I would love that. I would love that. I want to see that just as much as all of you want to see that. But I think games like yesterday and even last weekend against the Bengals, these games remind us why that's really hard. Like, it's really hard to blow doors to the degree that most Packers fans want to see in an NFL game. It's really hard. And I'll never tell you, Packers fans and my fellow owners, I'll never tell you to not be mad or to not be annoyed. I'll never tell you how to fan for the most part. Sometimes I get a little, I got a microphone. I'm only human. Maybe once in a while. But I really try not to. It's not my job. Just an observation, however. Just an observation. Between listening to Bill's postgame show yesterday, and I caught a little bit of the Packers flagship too, and then listening to Bill's show and reading the comments for 4 hours earlier today, I get the sense that a lot of you really are starting to dislike Matt LaFleur. I think part of that is just you have a coach for a while, you just eventually start to not like that coach. It's just how it works. Even if the coach is good, the longer a coach is in one place, the more fatigued people get. So part of that is natural, and I understand that, but I think this is something greater than just coach burnout, or fatigue is probably a better word. I think a lot of you, it's just, again, an observation. I'm making an educated guess. I think a lot of you turn on the Packer game on Sunday and you're already upset and you already want to yell and you already want to have your take prepared for the show the next day when you call in or when you comment. You want to see things and you want to find things in the game to get mad over because, again, you're mad when you turn the game on, which is your right. Sometimes that's how I watch the Brewers. That's most of the time how I watch the Brewers. You can do that, but I'm telling you, Packers fans, you're never going to be happy. Even if the team wins 38-10, you're not going to be happy. You'll find something if that's the way that you're approaching it. And I also think you draw bad conclusions when you watch football that way. So if you want to be mad all the time, look, that's your deal. Again, I like being mad when I watch the Brewers. I get it. So if you want to be mad, be mad. And if you want to bring that onto the show in your calls or your comments, that's your right. Sometimes it fatigues me a little bit when I do it for 6 hours a day, but go nuts. That's your right as a fan and as a distinguished listener and participator in this excellent sports talk radio medium that I like so much. But I think sometimes when you watch games like that, you draw bad conclusions and you see things that aren't there, or you react to things in a way that's not based in reality. It's based in your frustration or your emotion. Yesterday wasn't perfect, but perfect games are really hard in the NFL. Like, I think we talked about this a little bit last week too. Look around. Watch some other games. Like, which teams, even the teams that we think are the best, and I think if you asked an average football fan these days, hey, who do you think the 2 or 3 best teams in football? They'd go, well, the Lions, I guess, yeah. Well, the Lions lost last week to the Chiefs. You might say the Chiefs now, they had a really impressive win yesterday, but for the first couple of weeks, people are like, the dynasty's dead. And other than that, who else? So Chiefs and the Lions are 2 easy names. I think most football fans would throw those at you if you ask them for their top 5, their power rankings right now, their Mount Rushmore of current NFL teams. They'd say Chiefs, Lions, but after that, you say Bills, but they've lost 2 in a row. The Ravens look like they stink. The Chargers look like they've come back down to earth. The Niners are winning games, but they're so banged up and missing so many of their talented star players Commanders? I know everyone likes Jaden Daniels. They got their doors blown off by the Cowboys yesterday. And look, as a Packers fan, I don't want to be Mr. Cowboys guy. I really like Dak Prescott. I think he's ripped a lot when he shouldn't be. He's not perfect, but very few quarterbacks are. I think Dak's good, and I'm enjoying watching him succeed this year. Maybe Brian Schottenheimer is an okay coach. Imagine that. Incredible that everyone decided he was a complete and total moron the day he was hired. And here we are now, a month and a half into the season. It's like, oh, their offense is actually really good. And they've, for the most part this season, been doing it with CeeDee Lamb missing some time. So I understand you want the Packers to play a perfect game and blow the doors off an opponent. I do as well. And if they don't do that at any point this season, then I will think less of them. If they skate by and win games like this all year, depending on how many they win, right, that will impact our projections or our belief on them in the postseason when they have to go up against repeated elite opponents, maybe some of those games on the road. So I get it, but watch some other games. Like, even the best teams in the NFL are losing games that you wouldn't think that they'd lose, or battling down to the final second in games they shouldn't be battling down to the final second. I think today's show is going to be fun because this game was a little bit more interesting. It was a lot more interesting, actually, than the Bengals game last week. There's some good, and we can talk about that. And then there's some bad. We can nitpick that. I'll give you 2 good things that I wrote down and 2 bad things that I wrote down. And I don't think I'm reinventing the wheel with any of these, but just lay a little baseline. I'll give you some thoughts before we take our first break and open it up to the audience for participation. A good thing that I wrote down. The Packers are down 20-13 late in the third quarter, and then they were down 23-20 with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I don't know about you, but I did not necessarily expect in those moments for the Packers to come back and win. And after that Arizona field goal, when they went up 23-20 with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Packers got the ball back and went 3 and out. I did not expect them to mount a comeback at that moment in time. And they did over the final 8 minutes. Their offense had to make a couple of plays, and so did their defense. And I know they put themselves in a spot that required a comeback. So we'll talk about that. That's not good. That's bad. Putting yourself in an early hole, that's bad. But it's better to have climbed out of that hole that you dug rather than to just lay on the bottom and lose, right? Very good execution in the fourth quarter by the offense. Big fourth down conversion. Really good throw and catch from Jordan Love. I like that Matt LaFleur decided to go for it there because if we're being honest, you kick a field goal and tie it, you still need your defense to get a stop. And they got a stop, but not one that would have precluded Arizona from kicking a field goal to take the lead. So when you talk about the risk, well, if they don't pick this up, their defense is going to need to hold. The defense was going to need to hold anyway. And that's assuming that they made the kick, which I would have felt pretty good about considering Havlicek, old Havy, let's call him. I feel good about how the way he's been kicking, but nothing is a guarantee with this Packers special teams unit. So I liked that they had the stones to go for that first down. They had the execution and the poise, specifically with Jordan Love, starting with Jordan Love to put that drive together, Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft. That's good. And you say, well, Grant, the only reason they needed to come back because they played bad in the first half. Yeah, okay, but they were behind. And then they came back. So coming back beats the hell out of not coming back, no matter how you came to be in the deficit in the first place. Another good thing that I wrote down, and I think this is pretty prescient. I believe I'm using that correctly. If you watch sports television shows today or listen to Packers podcasts, I listen to a little bit of Locked On because I like starting my day with Pete as much as he likes starting his day with us. Locked On Packers. If you doubted the calculus of the Micah Parsons trade, I think you probably saw some things yesterday that made you feel a little bit better. If you're like, is this guy really worth 2 first-round picks? Well, for a player to be worth 2 first-rounders and a Pro Bowl player like Kenny Clark, they need to be able to go and win you a game, especially when the opposing quarterback is a statue and he's rushing against a right tackle that maybe isn't all that good. For a player to be worth what the Packers paid to acquire Micah Parsons, you need to have games like that. Not every week, but they needed Micah Parsons to basically close a game for them yesterday. I won't say that he won them the game single-handedly because the offense had to score and get back in position for the defense to have an opportunity to win the game. But if you were like, I get Micah Parsons, I mean, a great player, but 2 first-rounders and a player, well, hopefully yesterday went a long way in convincing you, okay, I understand why they made this trade. I understand the scope of it, even if I think the price is high, or even if I'm still skeptical that this is good enough to compete for and to win a Super Bowl. Hopefully you got good proof of concept yesterday. If, again, at any point you were doubting, is Micah Parsons really, really worth it? Well, as I've seen all over social media and sports talk television, I don't think the Packers win that game without Micah Parsons yesterday. Maybe Rashawn Gary goes dumbo mode and makes all those plays because, again, Jacoby Brissett can't really move. But that's why you go get Micah Parsons. And to see that play out in such a clear-cut, obvious way yesterday, I think has even the most skeptical Packer fan thinking, okay, all right. If you doubted, maybe there are no Micah Parsons doubters, but anytime you spend 2 first-round picks and a Pro Bowl player to go get a guy, it's like, well, is he really going to be worth it? Is he going to be that much of a difference? Well, yeah, there you go. You got the concept yesterday. So that's another good thing. Now, you could be negative and say, well, they wouldn't have won it without Micah Parsons. Yeah, but that's why they traded for Micah. That's why they traded for Micah Parsons. This came up on Bill's show, and I'm like, yeah, Bill, and if I didn't have a car, I wouldn't have got to work today. But I have a car. That's why I own a car. Shout out again to Kai Chevrolet up in Menominee, our presenting sponsor of the show. A bad thing that I wrote down. I have 2 bad things, and then we'll take our first break. There still seems to be some disconnect in what I will talk about as the circuit of the Packers offense, right? Now, I'm no engineer. Shocking, I know. But there's such thing as a series circuit and a parallel circuit. And the series circuit, if I remember correctly, I didn't look this up today. I should have. A 10-second Google search would have made this analogy way better. But a series circuit has an input, and if anything along the path goes wrong, the output doesn't work, right? So if there's a little motor, I don't know, on one end and a red light on the other, and there's a bunch of wires in between, if there's just one issue with that wire in between, that light will not turn on. Now, I think parallel, you have some more, that's why you wire things different ways to give yourself a little insulation. But let's just say the input of the Packers offense seems to be fine. I like the talent and I like the play caller. The output seems to be fine. As I pointed out last week, from Monday to Friday, we're inundated with graphs and visual aids and lists and power rankings about how the Packers offense is one of the most efficient and one of the most prolific in regards to big time plays, explosive plays, EPA per play, whatever. Like, again, if you were to not watch any of the football games and you were to not pay attention to any of the win-loss records, you would see the material that's spewed Monday to Friday and think this Packers team is a juggernaut offensively. I mean, just look at the little graphs and look at the lists and everything, right? So the input, the talent, the players, the play caller, I like all that stuff. The big picture counting stats or the advanced stats on the other side of the circuit, those 2 things seem to be good. There's something in the middle that's just not humming. My eyes don't show me what I should be seeing based on the talent and the play caller and the information that we have. And I don't know what it is, if it's just an execution thing. If maybe it's a play calling thing. I know a lot of Packers fans aren't really thrilled with Matt LaFleur these days, and we can talk about that more in our next segment. But they scored 3 points in the first half last week and 6 points in the first half this week, right? Maybe I'm off, but I don't think they've scored a touchdown in either of the first 2 halves of the last 2 weeks. They're better than that. And I'm struggling to understand exactly where that issue is. One more bad thing, and I'll just address the defense before we take our first break. The defense collectively had a bad day. And I know that the final score, I don't even have it in front of me. What was it, 27-23? 23 points is not the worst final score in the world. It's not a bad number to give up. But the idea of this defense is, and Jeff Hafley kind of stuck his chest out last week and said, yeah, I know it doesn't always look pretty, but this is how we play and this is how we're going to win. He kind of endorsed his process when questioned on that process. Strategy is you keep everything in front of you. You only give up small plays, no explosives, no big-time plays, and that's how you win. Okay, I like that philosophy. I think that's how a lot of smart defensive coordinators in football do it. That's how smart defensive coordinators do it. But it didn't really work all that well yesterday for a couple of reasons. First, if you're going to play that style of defense, your offense needs to be able to stay on the field. And Xavier McKinney talked about this postgame. I'll give you this audio later where he's like, yeah, we're going to give up some plays on defense, but we know that Jordan Love and our offense, they're going to make more plays. Okay, well, then your offense needs to score a touchdown in the first half. If the strategy, it would be like, here's a great analogy to cross sports. It's like Quinn Priester. Yeah, I'm going to pitch to contact and I'm going to give up some ground balls because I trust my defense. And I know that even if I give up a run or two, our offense is going to be able to go get me and we'll win the game. Well, that would be like pitching to contact the Packers. If your defense isn't any good and your offense isn't hitting. It's like, well, actually, you need to be a little bit better. You need to miss some bats. You need to strike guys out. And the Packers defense really isn't doing a great job. They had a couple turnovers or one turnover yesterday, which was huge. And the Packers offense responded with a score, complimentary football for the first time in what feels like forever. Also, if you're playing that style of defense, you can't give up conversions on 3rd and 23 and 3rd and 15, which they did yesterday. And they also gave up one on 3rd and 9 after committing a penalty on 3rd and 9, made it 3rd and 5, and then they give up the touchdown. If the whole idea of the defense is we're not going to give up explosive plays, then you can't give up explosive plays. And your offense needs to be better. Luckily, they did just enough to get the win, and the win, even if it's not perfect, beats the hell out of a loss. I'll take your calls on this topic coming up next, 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I think you've got a chance to be a great team, but the offense is like, I mean, at the end of the year, you want to be greater than the sum of your parts. I think the offense is less than the sum of its parts. I mean, everybody feels good about the way Jordan Love's played this year, and they should. You know, Golden's shown flashes, cracked as a top tight end, and it's still, they just can't sustain game to game, even, quarter to quarter, the ability to move the ball, get first downs, and score points. It is just so hit and miss, and you feel like that they should be better. So maybe, and that's probably where the upside is that they are going to get better. The more Matthew Golden gets into things, and Jaden Reed's going to get back here, and as you just mentioned, the old line's going to play together more, and they should get better. So there's a lot of upside here. So yeah, I think they're a very good team that can be great, but I would say they're a long ways away yet.
That's Bill Huber, Sports Illustrated. He was on with Bill Michaels. I always love when I am between two Bills anytime Huber joins. You can find that hour number 2 of Bill's podcast earlier today if you want to go back and listen to that interview, and I'd recommend it. Bill Huber's always great. Just kind of getting at this idea that, man, I like all the players on this offense, and I like the play caller, and all of the Monday through Friday stats, when all the graphs come out and all the PFF data gets dumped onto Twitter, and then all the Packers fan accounts are like, I was told. I'm like, okay. All the big picture numbers look great. I like the personnel. I like the play caller. So then what goes on Sunday when they go 2 quarters without scoring a touchdown? I'm not telling you that yesterday's game sucked. It was a very entertaining football game. I'm very happy the Packers won. But of course, we're going to nitpick. We would do this if they won by 20. We would still look for the good and the bad, and we'd sift through it all. So I'm not telling you that yesterday's game sucked. It's like, why does this offense go into its shell for a quarter or a half at a time? It doesn't make any sense. Maybe we're overvaluing how good the collection of Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, like maybe those guys maybe they're just good, but they're not Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Emeka Ibuka. Maybe. I guess time will tell over the next month. And Christian Watson's going to come back, and so that'll be another little input of data for us to watch as well. Enough from me. Your phone call, 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant.
Hey, Colin.
Happy Victory Monday. Boots on the ground at State Farm Field yesterday. Great environment. Packer fans everywhere. Definitely did not feel like an away game. And I think, part of the win has to go to the crowd. If we're doing blame pie, if we're doing victory pie, I think you give a slice to the crowd. Was it really that? It sounded loud, and I could hear some Go Pack Go on the radio broadcast in the last couple of minutes. I was listening at the very end. Yeah, I'd say 60% Packer fans, conservatively. Wow. State Farm Field, cool. It looks just kind of like another dome. It's like in Madden when you go into a franchise for 15 years, new teams just have these new generic stadiums. Yeah. And it feels very much like that. Kind of an NBA feel where there's always a PA announcer, chanting starting defense chants, third down chant, like Bird Gang, where you at, Bird Gang? So it feels a little manufactured, in my opinion. Well, they've lost 5 in a row now. I think Arizona, and Cone, you're down there. What do people say? I feel like this Arizona team has a little talent. I think they're better than their record would say. I'm not telling you that they're an amazing team, but they've lost so many of these games that are really close. And then I watch them like, I really like Trey McBride and Calais Campbell and Josh Sweat. Like they got some dudes. I'm not telling you that they're an all-star team, but do people down there in Arizona feel like this team should have more wins? Yeah, I mean, I was watching the local news last night on the coverage, and the local sports reporter from Channel 12 News here was just letting the team have it, saying they should be 6-1. So yeah, I think these fans think this team should be a lot better than they are, but they're also hard on the team because a good team pulls off these wins. So yeah. Well, and that's the thing, Colin, that's a good call. I'm glad that you enjoyed the game. Thank you for reporting. There's a difference between a team that has lots of talent and has a good coach and a team that can actually win football games on Sunday. It is very difficult to win an NFL game. The Cardinals have won over the Saints 20-13 and over the Panthers 27-22. Since then, they've lost by 1 to the Niners, 3 to the Seahawks, 1 to the Titans, 4 to the Colts, and now 4 to the Packers. So it's easy for a fan base to say, we could be 6-1. And I know, Packers fans are like, well, the Packers right now, what could they be, without the ties? Would they be 6-1-0 or whatever? It's easy to say that. It's really hard to win football games, even when the game was close. And you're like, we should have won that one. Yeah, well, that's why they play the games. It's how the NFL is. Arizona is not an awful team. They have a very bad record right now. I don't think they're an awful team. And they made some plays yesterday. Trey McBride's a stud. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Oh, you got a tone roller right now, Grant. Hey, I'm at the airport. I apologize for the noise. I just got a nice wink and smile from a Packer backer lady. So it's a good day, Grant. Victory Monday. And Cone Roller's right. 65% Packer fans. We brought it home. Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur, we bailed you out. I got to say, that operation between special teams, offense, and defense what's the opposite of complimentary football, Grant? Give me a definition. Uncomplimentary, because they're awful.
Conflicting football. Well, look, there were some moments yesterday where the Packers would score. Well, one at the end of the game, really, where, well, I guess the Packers forced a turnover and the Packers scored a touchdown, right? So there's complimentary football. And then when they scored the touchdown at the end, the defense got the stop. That's complimentary football. But it felt like for the rest of the game, the Packers would score, and then the defense would give up a score. Or the Packers would get a score, and then their special teams would make a boob on a kickoff and give up a bunch of field position, right? That's been an issue.
Yeah, you ever have like that group of buddies? There's always one idiot in the group that's screwing up the night for you. That's the Packers. There's always something screwing it up.
It's just always
And you know what? And I got to go here soon, but that Browns loss, if they had won that game, I actually feel pretty good about the Packers right now. But they lost that game because the Browns are better than the record. Anyway, we got a decent team. The Dallas game doesn't look that bad either, by the way. Dallas has got a good offense.
Dallas is...
We got a decent... They're good. But, overall for the Packers, good team, not great. Lot to learn from, lot to grow. And I think Matt LaFleur's hot seat is getting slightly warm. We might need the LaFleur gauge, Grant, as we go further.
A LaFleur gauge. I appreciate that, Tony. Fly safe. Don't get stuck on the tarmac for 5 hours like reportedly the Packers did. Yeah, the Packers are 4-4-1. I mean, it's easy to say they should be 6-0. And you could say that. I'm a little bit more conservative in the way that I project NFL teams these days as I get older and I get wiser. Whatever. And you watch enough of these, it's like, guys, it's really hard. You can't just go down the schedule and say, well, you're favored that week, you'll win there. You're favored that week, you'll win that. It's harder than that. But man, if they were 5-0-1 instead of 4-1-1, like, would that make that big of a difference for Packers fans? Maybe a little bit. I want to talk about Matt LaFleur, and I want your thoughts on the Packers head coach after this next break. So I'll set that up on the other side. But first, one more call here before we get into that. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, it's Corey out of Marshall. How you
Corey?
looking?
I'm excellent. How about you?
I'm all right. So you were asking what's plaguing their offense. I wanted to answer your question.
Go ahead.
Pretty straightforward from my end. It's an inconsistent offensive line play coupled with poor, what's the best way to put it, procedural penalties.
Yeah.
Lack of concentration penalties.
Yep.
Where you're in a 3rd and 1 and all of a sudden you're in a 3rd and 6. And you've got defenses that are playing too high shells. And if you're not effective at your running game, which
they're not.
Josh Jacobs is a man, but they're not as effective as they could be. You got to get them out of that. It's the same problem that Aaron Rodgers ran into prior to the mid-2010s when everybody started saying, okay, we have to play them over the top, now let them get deep. And Matt LaFleur has a tendency to want to kind of show off how smart he is and try to use those Lamborghinis down the field versus just using his F-250 truck, Tucker Kraft.
Yeah.
And then,
damn it, Corey. All right, Corey, your phone stinks. I'm going to let you go, Corey. But you got your point out there. Something I haven't mentioned yet, and I feel a little bad because I feel like I probably missed the mark and didn't do my job. We're 32 minutes in. I remain underwhelmed by this O-line. Rasheed Walker probably had his worst game of the season yesterday. I don't know what the grades would say. I know Andy Herman will come out with all his grades, and I'll look at that and use that as a little bit of a reference. Banks is just like penalties and issues. Zach Tom's clearly not 100%, but they keep running him out there. They're not getting an overwhelming push on the O-line. The 2 games that they've looked best this year were week 1 and week 2, Lions, Commanders. And the number one takeaway in both of those games were there was nobody pressuring Jordan Love. Now, they didn't really run the ball all that well, but they got a nice wall built up front. And that slipped a little bit. And when you can't rely on your running game to just kind of keep the drive puttering and to keep it moving, especially against too high, yeah, it's going to be a lot harder. And you're going to open yourselves up for, you drop one pass and you might be porked. You get one holding call, you might be porked. So we'll talk about that on the other side. But Packers fans, I more specifically want to ask you about Matt LaFleur. I gather that this fan base is really sick of this guy. And like, he's not my favorite coach in the entire world, and I don't think he's Vince Lombardi. But I guess I'm just curious, like, where's this coming from? Is it just because they lost in Cleveland and tied in Dallas? Like, is that where it turned? Is that where the fan base started to not like Matt LaFleur? We'll talk about that on the other side.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I don't want to rip Green Bay because I really do think Arizona's got players. I really do think they have 6 or 7 elite players. They're very good at home. I just think Green Bay's a team that's not getting a push on the offensive line, so they don't extend drives. And They're not very good early, so they often play from a hole. And I just think this is kind of what they are.
Well, Arizona's 2-5. They could be 6-1. They literally could win every single game they play in, And this goes from the beginning of the year. They have lost some just devastating games.
It's Colin Cowherd and John Middlecoff on their weekly NFL wrap-up show they do on Sunday nights through the volume. It's a good show. It's just a nice little bit of commentary. Look, the Packers won. I don't think you should ever kill a team for winning. No, you want to talk about how they should have looked a little bit better or won by a little bit more. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine and good. But I was texting with a friend about this last night. So I worked Bill's postgame show last weekend. First time I've ever done it. I had nothing going on, and Kate couldn't do it. I'm like, sure, I don't care. Yeah, I'll come in and answer the phones and play some sound. Yeah, why not? And I couldn't believe after that Bengals win how mad everyone was right at the beginning of the show. Like, here's why this coach blows, and here's why. I'm like, Now, you want to talk about mistakes they made in the game or things that, they got to clean this up. Yeah, that's what sports talk radio is for. But what I'm starting to gather is I just think that large swaths of the Packers fan base and ownership, myself included, but excluded to this portion of the ownership, I just think a lot of people don't like Matt LaFleur. And I don't know if that started this offseason. I don't know. I've started hearing a lot more of it on the air between Bill's show and this show after the Cleveland game and the Dallas game. So maybe it was just those two games pushed some people over the edge. I don't know. I don't know. And we did this on Bill's show earlier today. We're like, all right, well, which other NFL coaches would you jump up and down to take over Matt LaFleur? And we basically settled on Sean McVay and Andy Reid. And then there's a bunch of them who were really close. So I guess I'll just open it up to all of you, and then we can close the hour with maybe 10 minutes on the Brewers before resetting things to start hour number 2 at 5 o'clock. I don't understand it necessarily. Like, is he jumping off sides or is Aaron Banks jumping off sides? Is he throwing an interception? Is Jordan Love throwing an interception? I don't know. I like Matt LaFleur fine and well. I'm not the world's biggest fan, but some of you people, it's like you'd run him out of town on a rail car today if you could, and I don't really understand that. 608-321-1670. We got loaded phone lines. Okay, let's get into it. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. Coach Freed here.
Hey, Coach. What's going on?
Nothing much. I noticed you were clip. Do you recall how many elite players?
You're breaking up, Coach. Can you say that one more time?
I heard you pull Coward's clip earlier, and he had mentioned Green Bay has some elite players. Do you remember how many elite players he said they might have?
I don't.
Like
2, 3? Oof, that's too many.
I think he said 6, 7. Anyways, so my whole deal with LaFleur right now is he's a coach. He's wearing these tight pants. He doesn't wear a hat. He's too worried about how his hair looks, and he's wearing these vests. And if there's one thing I've learned from these past few years about my football coaches is that they should never be wearing vests, much less one with a stupid acronym on the back. They take too much after their coach. They worry too much about how they look. They're wearing vests. They're wearing tight bands. Just show up and play some ball. And would it kill you to wear a hat?
So, Coach, that's a good call. I don't think you are serious. And if you are, if you're not serious, it's satire, and satire has a point. And if you are serious, then you're further making this point. So many of the complaints I hear about Matt LaFleur, about the hair, about the way he talks, I'm like, you guys, you can fan how you want. I just don't care about that stuff. Like, if Luke Fickell and the Badgers were beanbagging every team they played, no one would care about his team vest. Like, no one would care. So that's another part of this Matt LaFleur thing. Well, his hair, his eyebrows. Is like, guys, I don't care. I don't care. You could shave his eyebrows off. I wouldn't care if they're winning football games. And I know that the Cleveland game and the Dallas game were bad, but what are they, 5-1-1 now? 4-1-1? Top of the NFC. 608-321-1670. Another call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hi, Grant. This is Ron from Madison.
Hey, Ron. How you been?
Good. I couldn't care less who's coaching. I'm watching the team. I want to see how they play, how they execute. And when it gets to the fourth quarter, can they win a game? Can they finish?
Yeah.
Because my days, I'm old. I go all the way back to Lombardi.
Okay.
And there are some games, especially on the road, where there were times they had to pull out of the fire, and that's all that mattered, that they won. So.
Yeah, Ron, you strike me as a pragmatic man who only cares about wins and losses. I appreciate that, Ron. Now, this is what's difficult about evaluating coaching. You know, if players go out there and they fail to execute or they commit penalties, you know, at a certain point, that's a reflection of the head coach, right? But then, like, what kind of penalties? Did a corner get beat and he grabbed? Well, that's not as indicative or it's not an indictment on the head coach the way that like a bunch of pre-snap procedural stuff would be, because that would be more focused. That would be more being locked in, being ready to play. These are the things that we're kind of battling. We got loaded phone lines here. Holy smokes. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, Jeremy, how's it going?
It's going great, Jeremy. How about you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm doing well. So my opinion is, like, I'm with you. Like, I don't hate Matt LaFleur. Like, I just want him to be better, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that some of the hate, the like vitriol that's literally going on for him, I think it stems from the fact that he just comes across like indecisive at times, especially when it's a big moment in the game, when you need to lock in on something. Like, he actually earned some goodwill with me on that fourth down play there. But there again, that kind of comes back to it where I was like, right away, we need to go. It shouldn't even be an issue. And he marched out the field goal unit, and then he changed his mind. He explained why he did that, and that's fine. I'm good with all that because it worked, and that was the right call at the time. But that's the thing. Like, sometimes he just does that where he waffles on stuff, and your team is a reflection of you. So there's times where the players make mistakes due to the fact that maybe they're indecisive.
Sure.
You know, you need a coach that's just going to stand up and be like, hey, this is how we're doing it, and this is what we're going to do, right or wrong. Like Dan Campbell's approach. His players will die for him. They'll die for him.
And the way that they play, even when it's a little crazy, right?
Right. And when he makes a decision, right, wrong, good, bad, ugly, or otherwise, this is what we're doing, and his players execute that way.
Sure.
And I think that's where some people just look at Matt like, what are you doing? Like, are we going to play this way, or are we not going to play this way?
Yeah, I think Jeremy.
Don't have an identity.
So this is a perfect spot. I'm gonna leave it right there, Jeremy, because I can add to this. Thank you for the call. There's been a real inconsistency, let's say, in the way that he's handled certain decisions over the last year. When he first took over, he would go for the fourth downs. He was very forward thinking. He was very modern. And I don't think you need to go for every fourth down, but he was very aggressive, and I think it worked very well. This last year or so hasn't been as aggressive, but then he'll like randomly be aggressive, and you're like, okay, but I want to know in your brain, like, why now but not earlier? And if a coach says, well, I just had a gut feeling, okay, I like that. I like that still has a place in sports. I just don't know why your gut would tell you one thing in an instance here and then not. I don't know. And the indecision going forward on fourth down, a lot of people complain. It's like, well, he set the field goal out there and then he pulled him off, and we learned after the game that Jordan Love kind of played a big role in convincing him to go for it on fourth down. Oh, so he had to be bullied by his quarterback. I'm old enough to remember 2 years ago when the Ravens went for a fourth down at the end, I think against the Chiefs, and John Harbaugh asked Lamar on camera, we could all see it, do you want to go? Do you want to go? And Lamar said yes. Everyone's like, wow, that's John Harbaugh. That's such strong coaching, communicating with his guy, checking with his guy, feeling it out with his guy. So again, I just think sometimes with Matt LaFleur, I'm like, some of you just want to turn the game on and not like him and be mad. And that's fine. Do whatever you want on your own time. If you want to be angry watching sports, I love being angry when I watch the Brewers. That's what I get something productive out of that. But if you're going to be that way, you got to at least check yourself before you start calling these sports shows and just throwing takes out there when it's like, no, I don't think this is a legitimate take. I just think you really don't like the head coach and you're looking for material. And sometimes that leads to bad takeaways. 608-321-1670. One more call, then we got to take a break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, it's Corey again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Corey.
Loud and clear.
Yes, you are.
Okay, I have a better connection now. So, Matt LaFleur, you're asking what our takes is on this. Very specific. I don't care about the look and everything else. So this is not some unhinged post-game rant like Bill's callers, okay?
Well,
this is very specific.
Okay.
I have concerns with this tactical in-game decision-making, or lack thereof, in key moments that cause problems for the team at the end of games, particularly in the postseason. Or at the end of like last season, biggest example I have is when they played Chicago and they didn't know how to call a timeout and what have you.
Okay.
In concert with that, I also have problems at times with his tone, acting like he is cock of the walk when he has not won a Super Bowl yet, and acting above any sort of questioning of like, okay, can you explain to us why you did this? The type of response is saying, explain to me what play action is. That is the specific issue I have with LaFleur. I don't want him fired because of that, but my concern is going from good to great, and I said that to Bill before.
Sure.
He has a problem with like inferring the right decision to make without knowing the exact way to get there, having to defer to Rich Bisaccia and what have you. That's my concern. Very specific, and I don't think it's out of line to have that issue with the coach as a fan, as an owner, as you are, Grant.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. When we go to these games, we put down our own money. I think we can comment on these are the problems I see with the coach.
No, you can absolutely, and Corey, I got to run. You can absolutely comment on all that stuff. If it's a matter of, well, I don't know if we can win a championship with him, fine. That's a good old fashioned coaching conversation. Like I'm not sitting here telling you that Matt LaFleur is Vince Lombardi. If we want to say, well, in the biggest moment is he going to be able to get it done. We'll have that conversation about every coach the Packers have until they eventually win a Super Bowl again. Sure. Corey, the cock of the walk thing, I never get that impression from Matt LaFleur. He was asked what happened at the end of the Dallas game. And he's like, it was like watching a car accident. If you're cock of the walk, you don't say that. You go, what do you mean? We ran what we wanted to run and it didn't work out. Like the cock of the walk thing, I don't know, but that's fine. You can feel that way. I'm not babysitting or policing the way that you're fanning. I'm trying to understand why this fan base feels the way that it does about a coach who's won a good amount of games. We'll come back. I'll give you a minute or two on the Brewers before we reset things at 5:00.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I'm tired of cheering for luck. I don't want to, like, that is the Brewers' path, right? Get in, get hot, get lucky. That's their path to winning a World Series. They were the best team in baseball by record and run differential this year. And you get to the playoffs and you look at whether it's Vegas odds or Fangraphs odds or what your mind was telling you throughout this NLCS. And you're like, this team's not even, like, they're not on the same level as these guys. So yeah, no, maybe eventually, maybe one of these years, the path will play out perfectly for the Brewers where they are the better team than everyone they play in the playoffs. Maybe if the Dodgers had lost to the Reds, if they had played the Reds in the NLCS, they'd be the better team.
They'll never be the better team. They'll never be the better
exactly
team.
it. It's like,
They'll never
what are
do
the
it.
chances that happens when the year you were the best team in baseball in the regular season, you weren't even close to the best team in the National League when paper actually matters. And paper doesn't always matter. But in this case, this Dodgers team, it definitely does.
There's a little bit of our friends J.R. Radcliffe and Kurt Hogue on the Microbrew podcast. And it shouldn't make you feel better. It didn't make me feel better. Where it's like, well, we're back to hoping for luck. Because if you got to hope for luck this year, in a year where they were number one in baseball in wins, they were number one in run differential. If, yes, even in that year, you still need to rely on luck, and you're always going to be relying on luck. And the biggest bummer of that soundbite, or the thing that I was left thinking about, and the reason I wanted to play it is, what are the odds that you're the best team in baseball, quote unquote, where you have an awesome team and it lines up where you're lucky and the path falls your way? And then you need to execute. You start to understand why teams like the Brewers don't win World Series, right? That's a lot of pins that need to fall into place. Kurt and JR were talking a little bit about if there's anything the Brewers could have done. And I think it's an interesting thing to think about and to consider. I don't think there was anything that the Brewers could have done over the course of a 7-game series to beat that team the way that we just watched them play. That's not to say the Brewers couldn't have played better. They absolutely could have played better. And to completely and totally chalk this up to payroll is letting them off the hook because Yelich sucked and Contreras sucked. Well, I'll stop right there. Everyone sucked. Every single one of them sucked. So to say that, wow, there's nothing you could do. It's the Dodgers. Maybe. I believe that over the course of a 7-game series now, seeing what we saw. But to chalk it entirely up to payroll, to chalk it entirely up to Shohei Ohtani on Friday night, I think lets the Brewers off the hook for the way they just no-showed. Mark comments, even the Dodgers will need some luck. I don't know. I mean, Kerkering threw the ball away for Philly, but the Dodgers were on their way to winning that series. The only thing, Q says, the only thing that could have been done would have been in July. I mean, they could have acquired a hitter. They could have got Naylor or Suarez. I still don't think it would have made a difference in this series. They might have won another game or two. If the Brewers hitters hit like they were capable of, and then Naylor or whoever adds a little bit, maybe they go to game 6. But I'm pretty confident coming away from this series saying, I don't know that there was anything this Brewers team could have done. Now, if everyone was healthy and they made some huge trade deadline acquisitions, maybe it's a battle and maybe the Brewers pull it out. But then again, then we're back what JR and Kurt said. Then we're back to hoping for luck that Yamamoto gets hurt or that Ohtani can't pitch or something. And I think the biggest bummer for Brewers fans is I don't envision a scenario in our lifetime where we're just going to be able to sit back and say, the Brewers are awesome. This might be their year. We're going to have to sit back and say, just get in and hope that some things go your way. And look, I'll take a World Series any way we could get it. I mean, every other team could get dysentery and the Brewers win by default and I'll be jacked up. But not exactly the most interactive, exciting way to conceptualize your baseball team in the postseason. So I wanted to play that cut. I thought Kurt and JR made some good points. We'll come back, reset the show at the top of the second hour after Zach's update with some Packers talk, Badgers talk on the way as well, and the Monday mailbag. Submit your questions, grantbills21@gmail.com.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's a victory Monday for the Packers after they won on the road, beat the Cardinals 27-23 yesterday. They left them at 4-1-1 and in first place in the NFC North. But all is not well with Green Bay, especially on offense, where very little has come easy for them this year. That's no more true than in the running game. They rank in the middle of the league in total yards and rushing yards, so they are top 10 in scoring. Coach Matt LaFleur knows they need to be better.
Long way away from being the team that we want to become. It just feels choppy. If teams want to play off and soft, then we got to be comfortable. And I'm talking to myself as much as anybody in regards to throwing shorter passes, and you got to slowly matriculate the ball down the field. But we got to get our run game going too, because if people are going to play not able to run effectively, it's going to be a long day.
Packers now going to turn their attention to Sunday night when they travel to Pittsburgh to face their former quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, and the Steelers. Kick there is at 7:20. Turning to Wisconsin, they have lost 5 straight, haven't beaten a Power 4 team in more than a year. Despite that, Athletic Director Chris McIntosh sent a letter to fans today showing support for Luke Fickell as the future of the program and also committing to spending more money on recruiting and player retention. Badgers head to number 6 Oregon on Saturday.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. With local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
The Bucs are just 2 days out from their season opener. They're going to get things going against Washington on Wednesday at Fiserv Forum. And Wisconsin held its red-white scrimmage yesterday. New addition Nick Boyd led the way with 21 points. They're going to face Oklahoma in exhibition action on Thursday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil. Print.
Where do you feel like you are? 6 games in.
A long way
Offense.
a long way away from being the team that we want to become. From the moment we got on the trip, nothing seemed to go right to in game. There was a lot of things that didn't go right, but the guys kept battling, and that's what it takes in this league. And it's encouraging that we haven't played our best ball.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour number 2, the Wisco Sports Show, presented by Road America. Their 2025 season passes, or 2026 season passes, holy crap, are on sale, and they will be through the end of the year. So if you're a big Road America fan, you want to get down there for all their special events, and I'm looking at their 2026 events calendar right now, and they already have the biggies on the calendar, so you make your plans. Get those season passes while they're cheapest now. Get them now. Good Christmas gift, too. Some things to think about. We appreciate Road America for being a presenting partner of the show. I want to play that Matt LaFleur comment, the full thing, the one that I cut down a little bit to stick in the intro, and then we'll get back to taking your phone calls. Gave you some good and bad parts from yesterday's game back in the first segment if you missed it. And then I asked, hey, Packers fans, I'm gathering that a lot of you don't like Matt LaFleur. And it seems like you might sit down at the beginning of these games pissed off, looking for things to make you more pissed off, which is your right. I guess I'm just trying to understand. Here's Matt LaFleur, the full comment that we heard in that intro. I suppose it would help if I turn the volume up on that.
From the moment we got on the trip, nothing seemed to go right to in game. There was a lot of things that didn't go right, but the guys kept battling, and that's what it takes in this league. And it's encouraging that we haven't played our best ball. Give credit to Arizona. I thought that there's a scrappy team, and we knew that going in. I mean, shoot, they've lost 4 games by 9 points, and then you lose another one by 4. But our guys, they're a resilient group.
So all of that is good. There's a comment in the middle that I have to circle, that I have to point out. It's encouraging we haven't played our best ball yet, right? You hear a lot of that when people talk about the Packers right now. The Packers are 4-4-1, and we haven't even seen their final form. We haven't even seen the best version of this Packers team. I don't think we've seen the best version of this team either. But what I feel that I must point out, and that I must remind people, there's no guarantee that we're seeing their best form. You know what I mean? People talk about this team. Well, the only team that can beat the Packers is the Packers. They're an elite team when they don't do this, this, and this. Well, guess what? Elite teams don't do this, this, and this. Part of being a good team is not beating yourself. And just because we haven't seen them play their best game yet doesn't mean we will. In fact, last year, I think, is pretty good precedent. We kept watching them against the Lions, the Vikings, the Eagles. Well, they haven't gotten it together yet. They haven't. And then by the end of the year, it's like, oh, this is just kind of who they are. And I think the Packers are better than the team we've seen the last couple weeks. By the way, I'm very pleased and happy with yesterday's win. For long stretches of that game, I did not expect them to win. They fought back and executed down the stretch to get a win, which is really hard to do in the NFL. They're 4-4-1. They're in a great spot. But obviously, it was maybe a little harder than some fans would have liked. Okay. The Bengals game really didn't knock you over last week. Okay. I don't think we've seen them play their best ball yet. I just need to be that sobering reminder that doesn't mean that we will. They might just be a sloppy team, a little immature team, a team that's maybe not as talented as we thought. Like, that's on the board too. I don't expect that this is the best version of the Packers that we'll see this year, but just because they play bad doesn't necessarily mean that at some point they'll play great. You know what I mean? Like, there aren't Titans fans in Tennessee saying, well, but they haven't played the best ball yet. This is stupid. I mean, maybe they'll play better. It's just not guaranteed. 608-321-1670. Thank you for waiting. This caller's been waiting through the break. I appreciate it. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, this is Tyson from Madison.
Hey, Tyson. What's going on?
Well, I want to talk Matt LaFleur. So I want to be clear. I also don't want Matt LaFleur, the Packers, to not be successful. This is no personal vendetta or hate to Matt. I am, if anything, frustrated that I can't root for my coach wholeheartedly when he does things that frustrate me. My concern is with the overall development of Matt LaFleur, the coach, the stuff that's on paper from when he got here to now. I mean, he started out as an analytics guy working with Aaron Rodgers. He ended up getting to draft the quarterback he wanted. He was giddy when we got him. He got 3 years to develop this person. We have been so patient with him as a fan base, and we've backed him up when he didn't look super confident. Seems like he's developed a gut, gotten away from the analytics, right? Now this gut, it's just not maybe making the best choices every single time. It's just hard to watch him overlook parts of his role and not let go of the offensive coordinator position.
Okay.
And tinkering with the offensive line. And it seems like he thinks his job is to scheme up and focus on the plays and create more and better. And I think he's forgetting about a very big part of the head coaching job, which is actually something other coaches before that Packers fans have seen. And so I think that's why we're frustrated, is because we see all these goodies we've always wanted, and yet it doesn't work. Why? Because he's not an authentic tough guy. He is not a football guy. He's a backstage guy. And when you have a Mike Holmgren, a real football guy, come in and in 6 years win 1 Super Bowl and take you to 2, and you see what that looks like, and you see him manage those personalities. And now I look at our team with more talent and more possibilities than ever before. And I feel like we are getting further and further with every week, a further away reach that Matt LaFleur is going to get me a Super Bowl, or the reason why I'm going to win a Super Bowl. It feels like, and I'm afraid of this, that we are Matt's development first girlfriend that is going to get him ready for his Andy Reid's on the Chiefs second part of his career. And I don't want to be that, man. This is it. This is Green Bay is the Mecca.
You don't want to be a pit. You don't want to be a pit stop for someone who goes on to do their best work somewhere else or date someone hotter afterwards. Yeah, I know what you mean.
and if your best isn't good enough to get it done in 6 or 7 years, people are going to lose patience. Even the sweetest, kindest fans in America have a point where we start asking questions. When you say, that's on me, that's my fault, that's me, guys, that loss is on me, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. There's a lot of hypocrisy. That's hard to stomach when you're not a tough guy.
Okay, so this is an excellent call, and there's a ton in there, Tyson. I appreciate it. By the way, you're right about losing patience after 5, 6, 7 years. That's just NFL precedent, too. Most head coaches who don't win a Super Bowl at their current job in the first, I don't know where the line of demarcation is. If it's like 4 or 5 years, this is talked about a ton, and I don't have the actual stat in front of me, but put it this way. Most head coaches win their Super Bowl in the first 4, 5, 6 years, or they don't win one in that spot. Then elite coaches might go on to their second stop, like Andy Reid, win one elsewhere. That happens, but it usually doesn't happen in that first spot. So, Tyson, what you're describing, fans losing patience, and it feels like we're getting farther away from a Super Bowl, that's rooted in NFL precedent. There's so much data to back that up. So I agree with you on that. I don't necessarily see it the same way that you do. There's a very interesting Holmgren parallel there, like a football guy, not just a nerdy scheme coach, but a football guy. I've talked about this before. I think all coaches comes in different shapes and sizes, different strengths and weaknesses. I think the closest thing we have to an all-around 10 out of 10 head coach is Sean McVay, because the scheme is really good. The culture is obviously there. It's really difficult to argue with that. He's done it with multiple quarterbacks. They tore it down, built it back up. I think Sean McVay is really underrated culture builder as well, and hirer and coach developer. And he's good at all that stuff. But for the most part, then you start to talk about the next tier of coaches, and Andy Reid might apply to that thing too. But then we're talking about the next tier of coaches, where it's like Shanahan. Okay, brilliant scheme. Struggles at some of the other things. Tomlin, really good leader of men. Defensively, his scheme is wax and wane, doesn't always hire the best offensive coordinators. A really good coach like, now I'm just grasping at straws here. I don't know. Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's defenses were always good. His culture was always there. Struggled with the offensive scheme. That would wax and wane, right? Kevin O'Connell, brilliant scheme, great with quarterbacks. Hasn't won a playoff game yet. The big game success hasn't been there. I'm just throwing names out and I'm pointing out strengths and weaknesses because, as I've said before, I don't think there are perfect head coaches anymore. And maybe it's the way that we hire and fire them so fast. Maybe it's the way that a lot of organizations have prioritized scheme guys to come in and immediately make their quarterback good. And you can talk about the advantages and disadvantages of that. It's probably more conducive for drafting and succeeding with a young quarterback, but maybe the culture or the program takes a little bit of a step back. You know, guys are just fired faster than ever before now. So if you don't like that Matt LaFleur is more of an offensive coordinator type, okay, then you go and get a culture builder like Mike Vrabel, and then you lose your mind because he can't get the offensive coordinator hire right, and that affects the quarterback, which affects the. So you're picking different strengths and weaknesses, and your sensibilities on that front are yours, and I'm not going to tell you you're right or wrong. What Tyson said at the very beginning of his call, I think is something that's very real. I talked about it last year. I think Matt LaFleur as a decision maker, an in-game decision maker, has regressed. I thought he regressed last year. I thought last year was his worst year as decision maker, challenger, timeout caller, play caller, but a lot of that might have just been by the end of the year, they were beat up and Jordan Love wasn't right, and it just never worked. But I was really disappointed last year in the fourth downs that he chose to not go for, in the field goals that he kicked, in the challenge flags that he threw. I just thought he regressed as a head coach last year. And go back and check the tapes. I talked about this all throughout the second half of the season and into the offseason. But into the offseason, I said, I don't expect this to be the case next year because we have so much precedent from Matt LaFleur's first, whatever it would have been, 4 or 5 years, that he's a forward-thinking, edgy, aggressive head coach who does all the things that you need your forward-thinking head coach to do in 2025. I don't know that I've got a ton of that this year. It looks a little similar to last year, but with a healthy Jordan Love. And that's been enough of a difference, although some convenient timing too. You got the Lions week 1, you get the Commanders at home. You know, Joe Flacco, you get as he just arrives into Cincy. Maybe if that game's a week later, it's a little different. Who knows? I actually think they might have done better against Kyler Murray than Jacoby Brissett. Spicy idea, I know. I think Matt LaFleur has shown a lot of things this year that we saw last year. And I thought last year was just like, well, he had a bad year. Like baseball players have a bad year. And then they bounce back the next year if they're good, because players typically regress or progress or advance to the numbers on the back of their baseball card. So I get it. I do. And I think Tyson summarized really well there. It was just a really good call. Some of the shortcomings or some of the concerns of Jordan Love. When I listen to other things, hey, can I play you an email that Bill got on the show earlier today, and you can hear my reaction? It's these types of things with Matt LaFleur that I just don't really have any time for. It's this kind of stuff, and this isn't typically like this isn't what Tyson was saying, but it's these types of calls.
Greg in the 608 said, I don't recall if it was immediately after converting the 4th and 2 or the winning touchdown, but I found it odd when they immediately put the camera on LaFleur. He's walking down the sideline with his hand out, trying to get as many people as possible to slap it. I haven't seen that done by a big-name coach over the years unless it's a game-winning plays. It appeared as if LaFleur had some insecurity issues and needed personal recognition and reassurance.
Can I go home? I would like to go home. Is the next comment about his hair? It's like that. It's that kind of stuff. And I just don't really have any time for that. I don't care. If you got an issue with his eyebrows or his vest, sorry, Coach Freed. I just don't really care. Bobby on the live stream says, give me a Sean Payton type any day. He comes off as a jerk, but he's a winner. Yeah. Good offensive scheme. I think he's shown that he can build a program as well. I think Sean McVay is like, if Matt LaFleur can have a Sean McVay type career, I think that's a good parallel. I think that's a good goal for him. I love the idea that we don't want to be the last girlfriend that Matt LaFleur gets before he gets, his forever. You don't want to be the pit stop. Although I don't know how Eagles fans feel about Andy Reid. You know what I mean? Like, is there any, what's the word I'm looking for? When you hold it against somebody, or do they hold a grudge, or is there any animosity there because he then went on to get it done? They probably look at it and said, oh, well, he went on to get Patrick Mahomes on his team. Okay, well, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Is there any animosity there? I should ask Ben Kenny. Couple of texts, 608-321-1670. Luke on the dirt road says, you're not on lacrosse for whatever reason. Guys, I'm not in Eau Claire. I'm not on lacrosse. I don't know what they're programming on those stations. My guess would be there's an early Monday night football game. Do they run Westwood 1 on those stations? Because if they're running that, yeah, you'll get a stream that's not the show, which is why you can always listen on the app. That would be my guess. If they're running, don't tell me what they're running on their stream. What are they running on the radio signal, if you can? Because I would imagine it's just Monday night football with the doubleheader tonight. And that's a text on McIntosh. We'll get to that in the next segment. I do want to get to that next, the statement he put out. Jeff says, Grant, I don't care for LaFleur for the same reasons as that caller. Wishy-washy in big spots. Some reason road games outside of the conference really seem to throw him for a loop. Also, what happened to all breaks? What happened to all gas, no breaks, or piss being hot? Are those not things anymore? Well, I don't know if you heard last night. He said, scared money don't make money. And I'm like, just shut up. Alan Eau Claire says, I know this is loser talk, but I'm finding the Packers' sloppy wins much easier to enjoy against the backdrop of the Badgers' impotency. Good word. I hope we see a cleaner, more complete effort for the Packers, but I'll never get tired of wins. You should not. Don't get tired of it. They won yesterday. It wasn't perfect. We can nitpick, but they came back twice, and then Micah Parsons gets 3 sacks to close the deal down. Like, yeah, I'd love for them to win by 30 every week. As I said on Bill's show earlier today, like, you guys don't want stress in your sports, then watch cartoons. Like, sometimes it's harder than it should be. Sometimes it's stressful. Sometimes it's not fun. I don't understand. I'm really, really trying to not tell you that you're wrong to feel the way that you feel as a fan. It's like, what do you expect every Sunday? Do you expect the Packers to cruise control to a 30-point win? You say, all right, box checked. Now I can go about my day. Like, no. You ever bet NFL games? You try to pick these things? You want a good lesson in how hard it is to win games by a large margin? Pick every game against the spread every weekend. Because that's what Bill and I do. It's really friggin' hard. And it's actually frustrating because the last 2 years we were both in the money and this year we're taking a bath. But I think this year, at least through 6 or 7 games, has been even harder to predict, as evidenced by our brilliance not being able to pick some of these games right. The Monday mailbag at 5:50, so submit your questions, grantbills21@gmail.com. TR says resentment. Yes, that is the word I'm looking for. If there's any resentment in Philly for Andy Reid going on to succeed elsewhere. Thank you. All right, now I can scratch that itch in my brain. I want to talk Badgers. Cone on the text line says, can you 60 seconds on Badger football, Luke Fickell? We'll do that next. I want to get into Chris McIntosh's statement because I find it interesting.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I know this, that it's disappointing to our kids, but it's also can be motivating as well. And that's what we got to continue to find is the ways to motivate us intrinsically that puts a better product out there so we don't have to worry about things like that. What can I say? Like, look, man, I mean, you love these kids and you hopefully you can see the fight that's still in them. And, yeah, you want to see better. I want to see better. There's a disappointment inside that locker room, but it's not from a lack of guys that are trying to put the product on the field and represent the W the way the W is supposed to be represented. And if that's not good enough, that's not good enough. When we win games, they'll come back. And, that's our job.
That's Luke Fickell postgame on Saturday. I'll tip my cap if this stretch of bad ball, which is really just the last 2 years, they haven't beaten a Power 4 opponent in forever. If it's getting to Luke Fickell, I can't tell. He does not sound broken. He sounds like this. Well, he sounds broken. He sounds like a broken record. He does not sound like he's about to crack or break. Now, maybe he gets on the other side of that door after the press and goes, oh, my God. But it's the same tone. It's the same messaging, which I guess what else supposed to you do, or what else are you supposed to do in that situation? There's not much that you can do. By the way, 608-321-1670 if you want to talk Badgers. We haven't really gotten into it yet. I wouldn't have talked much about the Ohio State loss today, because why would I? We would have done 90% Packers, 10% Brewers, do the Monday mailbag, and get out of here, which, by the way, the Monday mailbag is open for your consideration. GrantBills21@gmail.com. I probably wouldn't have even talked about the Badgers today, because why would I? The Iowa loss is much more meaningful and much more damning. Nobody expected them to play close against Ohio State. They didn't. If they had lost only by 10, it would have done nothing for me. Just be competitive. Just show up. And no, I've seen them do that. I saw them do that against Oregon last year. I saw them do it against Penn State. I saw them do it against Ohio State 2 years ago. That does nothing for me. It does not. And that's just me. If you're a UW alum or a former player, whatever, like, yeah, that might matter to you. Like, I just hope it's a respectable game. I just hope they hang in there. I don't care. I don't care. I've seen them do it. There's no moral victories left in this for me in this era. You either start winning or you don't at this point. So that was my perspective. It wouldn't have made the show today. But then Chris McIntosh puts out a statement. This is the second time that he's issued a vote of confidence in Luke Fickell in the last couple of weeks. The other one would have been after the Maryland loss. So what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 games ago, post-bye, I think, mixed in there. Zach tweeted out the statement, as did many others. I will read it for you here, but I need my reading music. Hold on. The producer is slacking today. So let me throw this on. I think that's the reason there were programming issues on some of our affiliates. Here I will... from the desk of Chris McIntosh, I'll read this for you. Dear Badger Nation, on Saturday at Camp Randall, I was honored to join my former Rose Bowl champion teammates and coaches on the field as the university community celebrated our collective successes, which is a funny way to begin it. I mean, I won a bunch as a player. We were celebrating that on Saturday. Wasn't that great? My years as a student athlete at Wisconsin were among the best of my life. I loved my teammates and coaches, our passionate fans, and the joy that Wisconsin football brings to our campus and entire community. It is with those experiences, along with my love and deep respect for our community, that I share in the disappointment with this football season to date. It has fallen well short of our standards. At Wisconsin, we do not shy away from setting lofty expectations for our teams, our coaches, and for myself. We embrace them and accept the responsibility of meeting those goals. While our coaches, staff, and student athletes continue to demonstrate the work ethic and values that represent UW football, the results simply are not where any of us want them to be. Coach Fickle sees the potential in what this team can be, as do I, and he shares the same disappointment and frustration. Our student athletes continue to stand and fight with character and pride as they battle through this moment of adversity, and they deserve all our support. Second half of this. Well, we still have a lot of football to play this season. Yeah, that's what we're worried about, Chris. With the support and significant involvement of Chancellor Mnuchin, athletics is committed to elevating the investment into our football program to position us to compete at the highest level. As a department, we must provide our coaches the tools necessary to succeed. That means more athletics-funded investments into infrastructure, staffing, and most importantly, student-athlete recruiting and retention. In this new era of collegiate athletics, the clear reality is that high expectations must be matched with an equal level of support. The results of this elevated support may not be immediate, but we are confident that the impact will be positive and long-term. Wisconsin football and Wisconsin athletics are important to our campus and to our community, to our entire state, and to our loyal fans and alumni. They deeply matter to Chancellor Mnuchin, who has been a strong partner since her arrival in Madison, and they matter to me. I bleed red and white, and I will not rest in the pursuit of our goals, fielding championship caliber teams and delivering the pride and joy of successes to a new generation of Badgers. You have my unrelenting commitment to do what is necessary to make that happen. Thank you for your dedication, loyalty, and passion. On Wisconsin. So the first, I don't care about 90% of that. It's just words because they need to put something out because this is such a clown car. The only part of this that interests me is, well, we still have a lot of football to play with. Blah, blah, blah. Athletics is committed to elevating the investment into our football program to position us at the highest level. As a department, we must provide our coaches the tools necessary. They're saying, hey, man, we gotta catch up on what we're spending or what we're building or what we're investing. And I am by no means an expert on this stuff. I find the sport of college football entertaining at times, exhausting most others. Like, I'm just not going to get into the weeds on which university can get which billionaire to pay some snot-nosed 18-year-old. I'm sorry. But when I read this, I'm like, this feels, pardon me, not the most educated here. This feels like maybe it's a couple years too late. And to be fair to UW, and others have brought this up, I think Zach has brought this up. I think Jesse has brought this up. I think I've heard Colton talk about this. They made a pretty big investment in a coach. So to say that they haven't been willing to spend money or to invest, they paid this coach a lot of money after paying the other coach to go away. And I think that maybe, just maybe, that when they did so, they thought, well, we might not have the best facilities, and we can talk about that in a sec. We might not have the biggest collective, but we're not going to cheap out on the coach, and hopefully that'll help us make up for other shortcomings. And it has not. And I don't think this is entirely Luke Fickle's fault, but I'll tell you this. I haven't turned on a Badger game on a Saturday in a long time and thought, man, they're not as talented, but damn, they're scrappy. Or man, they fight hard, or man, they're well coached. If you could just get a couple players in there, you can see, like, no, I think that about the Brewers. There's plenty of other teams I've watched. It's like, man, they don't have the talent or they don't have the players yet, but you can see the framework there. The Dan Campbell Lions in the first year, probably a good example. You could see that the program was kind of aligning itself. The framework was kind of being built. And you're like, man, if they can just get some players and talent, I think they're building this the right way. I would be more inclined to talk about additional investment in NIL and additional investment in all this stuff if I was watching the game on Sunday thinking, man, you got to get Luke Fickle some players. Like, he's built a program and the culture and they fight and they play hard and they're in every game, but they just don't quite have the talent of the big boys. If I felt that way, then maybe I would be fired up about this. And maybe I'd be like, UW's got to invest and they got to do this, that, and the other thing. And I think UW a couple of years ago thought they were investing. It's like, well, we're going to go get the top coach in this hiring cycle and give him a fat contract. And maybe we don't have the talent of these other schools, but this should help make up for it. And I can't fault UW for that thought process. It's not a bad one. But it would seem they fell behind on a lot of other things. I just bookmarked this thread from Adam Rittenberg, who covers college football for ESPN, has for a long time. He tweeted this 20 minutes ago. Quick Wisconsin thread. When reading AD Chris McIntosh's statement today, I thought about a post I did for the old Big Ten blog back in 2012, ranking all the Big Ten facilities. Wisconsin's ranked next to last. UW's ability to win, as long as it did without the money of most top 20 programs, is amazing. Wisconsin operates differently from many top-tier football schools. There's a reason Brett Bielema left for Arkansas and Gary Anderson for Oregon State. There are challenges at UW. This doesn't absolve Luke Fickell or anyone for what's happening now. It never should have been this bad. But what's clear is you can't operate on the cheap in really any category that matters and expect to maintain what Wisconsin did for decades, much less elevate and become a playoff caliber program. If bottoming out forced change, so be it. So whatever, man. I'm not familiar with their facilities. It seems that there's been a perception or an idea for a long time that Wisconsin doesn't spend on the level of these other schools. Okay. But I like that Adam Rittenberg included there. That doesn't absolve Luke Fickell and others for blame. Guys, they might be the worst Power 4 team in the country. This is funny. I was texting with a friend earlier today about this. I'm like, the Badgers are a laughingstock, and everyone's talking about it. And I think a wide majority of people who are talking about it are still understating how bad they are. Like, they might be the worst Power 4 team in the country. So people can talk about, man, they suck. They're no good. Like, yeah, they do suck. But, like, you cannot overstate how bad they are. They're that bad. And I'm sorry. I don't care if they don't have the facilities that are on par with some of these other Big Ten programs. Maybe their collective isn't on par with some of these other programs. And put that at the feet of McIntosh and Mnookin and everyone at the top. But I'm sorry, Luke Fickell, your bar for me feeling bad for you because you're not given the tools to succeed is be better than the worst team in the Power 4, because that kind of feels like what they are right now. If you want me to feel bad for you and your lack of resources and your lack of commitment from your athletic department and your chancellor, be better than the worst team in the Power 4. Because if you're a good coach who can hire good assistants and build something, like you should be nowhere near the spot you are now. So again, I would be losing my mind, and I would have RJ in here, RJ Cardinal, who's on the morning show. He does such a good job talking about all the different initiatives and clubs and things that UW has done over the years and things that have changed or things they've done away with. In order for me to care about any of that stuff and feel like UW really needs to be better with any of that stuff, I need to turn on my TV on Saturday and think that my coach and my team is anything better than the worst team in the Power 4, which is probably what they are. Like Zach and Jesse were talking about this in the camp. You can talk about Purdue. Purdue can score. Like they have a somewhat functional offense. Their games sometimes are contests after halftime. So again, if I turn my TVs on Saturday, I don't know why I said that. If I turn my TV on Saturday and thought, man, if they could just get a little money, if they could just get some talent, because this Luke Fickell guy, like he's building something here, then I would lose sleep over this. I don't. Because Luke Fickell has done nothing to inspire or engender confidence or belief in his players or the fans and the viewers of his team. So yeah, their collective probably sucks. And they've fallen behind, and they're probably way behind on all this stuff, and the impacts of these missteps or I guess just like neglect will probably be felt for years. But I got to give UW credit. They went out and hired who they believed to be the best coach that cycle, and I think most people would have agreed, and they made a big investment to get him here, thinking, okay, we might not be the richest, we might not be an SEC team, we're not Ohio State, but if we can get a good coach who can build a culture, it's been shown to work at Wisconsin for, I don't know, the better part of 25, 30 years. Like, that thought process was sound, and maybe that puts them in the middle of the Big Ten. Maybe you're competing to be near the middle and have a year every once in a while where you pop up. But in no way do I accept the current situation as, well, what do you want Luke Fickell to do? He doesn't have any money, the facilities. I don't know. What do I want him to do? Be better than the worst team in the Power 4, because that's what they are. And Luke Fickell alone with a program like this, with even a shred of prestige, should be better than that. And they're not. So, yeah, you can talk about collectives. You can talk about that. I don't know. They have not even played to a level where I can concern myself and worry about that, even though they absolutely should be at UW. It's just not something that I'm going to piss and moan about. The Monday mailbag at 5:50, so submit your questions. GrantBills21@gmail.com. We'll continue next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, Monday mailbag in about 10 minutes. So submit your questions, grantbills21@gmail.com. The point of the mailbag is just to, dick around a little bit. Talk about some things. So if you email a question in the mailbag and it's like, what do you think of Luke Fickell? That's what we're talking about now. That's what we're doing that right now. The last segment is for whatever else. Fun, random, stupid things. If you have a Fickell comment, now would be the time. 608-321-1670. Coyote Mike says, Grant, McIntosh should have sent that 2 weeks before the season began. Anticipating the strength of schedule would undoubtedly present huge challenges. Now it appears as a desperate last-minute move, asking fans and supporters for patience and forgiveness. Everyone associated with the approval of Fickell's ridiculous contract may need to be fired also. I don't know. I don't think that Fickell's contract is that ridiculous. It made sense when he was hired. Yeah, he wasn't a guy with Wisconsin ties, but he had just taken Cincinnati to a college football playoff. He's a defense guy with a wrestling background. He's not from Wisconsin, but he was pretty darn close. It's not like they hired Lincoln Riley or Brian Kelly. You could squint and be like, all right, yeah. Now, if you were someone when that hire was made, said this is going to be a catastrophe, this is going to suck. Oh, okay, well then you're smarter than me. You're smarter than everyone else. You were right. I think the majority of people, including smart college football people, were like, yeah, that'll play. If you want to go in a different direction and you want to be bold and you want to really go get someone, that someone makes sense. And again, Wisconsin should be getting better return on their investment from this coach. I've been told, and I think it was Zach. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Jesse. And the last time we had Colton on, we wasted a bunch of time talking about Nizier Forkurian, which in hindsight, it's like, why did we ever do that? Nizier Forkurian could be out there and he could be 8 feet tall and he could run 100 miles an hour and it wouldn't make a difference for the place his program is in. So I think it's Zach has referenced this when we talk about commitment from the highest levels of the university. Well, they went out and they broke the bank to get one of the biggest available coaches in all of college football. So I understand why maybe UW at the top at that time was thinking, well, we don't have as much money to pay players, and we certainly don't have facilities that are like on the level of the SEC, but we have tradition. This is a baller college town. Not everyone's going to want to come here, but it's not like we're forcing kids to live in Fargo. With all due, if we go and get a great coach who's done it elsewhere and can institute a culture and develop guys, this should work. I completely and totally understand that line of thinking. And again, to be fair to UW, it should be working better than this. This is pathetic. Luke Fickell might currently be coaching the worst team in the Power Four. So I'm sorry for defending. I don't think I'm defending. I'm sorry for rationalizing the thought process from UW up until this point. Now, they've fallen behind on this and that and the other thing, but it's not like they hired some no-name Joe Schmo to come in here and just be a doormat. I would bet every dollar that I own that UW hired Luke Fickell thinking, okay, well, we'll make up for some of the other shortcomings that we have, and we can work on those, but Luke Fickell is going to build us somewhat of a floor here while we get everything figured out. And he hasn't. He's done an ass job. It's been horrible. He's had no answers. And everything that he's tried to do so far has basically been a miss. Every transfer quarterback that he's brought in has gotten hurt. I don't think they were that good anyways. The offensive coordinator hire that he made when he first arrived was an abject disaster, and it's one that he hasn't been able to overcome yet. So Luke Fickell has done this to himself. Yes, he could have a little bit more money, and he could have more support. But the idea that Luke Fickell needs to be paid $1 bajillion to come to a prestigious university in the Big Ten, he needs to have his hand held to understand that you need big players in the Big Ten. And I say big by like large, girthy men, because you play Iowa and you're playing Michigan and you're playing Ohio State, and you need to be able to at least hold your own in the trenches. He missed that. He didn't understand. Not only did the Phil Longo hire miss schematically, it missed on a personal level. He misread fundamentally what the human Phil Longo would want to do and how he would or wouldn't work with him. So, guys, I know everyone wants to turn on the university and Jennifer Mnuchin. Oh, she doesn't even like football. She's a woman. Oh, okay. Well, maybe UW isn't as committed as Penn State or Ohio State. Sure. But let's not act like they didn't make a massive commitment to go get a coach who's delivered them nothing. I'm not saying that he should be winning Big Ten titles. again, I literally cannot put the bar any lower than I'm putting it. Don't be the worst team in the Power Four. Don't be the worst team in the Power Four. And then we can talk about what the Chancellor is or isn't contributing, what Chris McIntosh is or isn't doing. And I listen to people much smarter and much more connected and informed and in the loop on, and I don't think they've done a good job. I think they've mucked up this and they've adjusted that. I think RJ does a really good job because he's so close to it and he goes to all the games and he's been around forever and he went to school there and he worked on the team at one point. Like, he has a really good understanding of certain traditions or certain programs that they've had that maybe they don't have anymore, or maybe that they've adjusted to something that works a little less. I mean, I think Greg Gard and the basketball team, again, just from things that I read and things that I listen to, kind of did their own thing and set it up in a way that's worked really, really well for them. And I know football is on a much grander scale, but that's why they went out and paid the coach. And Luke Fickell has delivered them nothing. So I will start with Luke Fickell. It would seem as though he might be back. That's the sense that I'm getting here. And I'm just interested to see how that's presented. Because if they lose out, and it very well seems like they could, and they don't beat a Power 4 team this year, and they don't win a conference game, you're going to have to really sell this offseason. And if that's what happens, I look forward to seeing the strategy. A text, Jay from Alaska says 2 things. Not enough talk about the 61-yard field goal. Yeah, how about that kid? 2, thoughts on Jordan Love not using checkdowns. Saw your running back over the middle 7 yards down the field. Jordan went for the big play several times. I think that's something that Matt LaFleur talked about after the game yesterday, right? Like, if teams are going to sit in too high, we need to be better about matriculating the ball down the field. And again, if I was all hot under the collar for Matt LaFleur, I'd say, duh, it's only been the defense that's been in vogue now in the NFL for 5 years. Duh. So yeah, they're going to have to figure that out. And I think Jordan Love loves looking for big plays, and I think Matt LaFleur does too, but they're going to have to find that medium. And Jay, to their credit and to give them a little bit of a break, they can't run the ball. They just can't. This offensive line has not been good enough, or they haven't been healthy, or both. And it's really hard to matriculate the ball down the field when you can't run the ball. So you do need to look for some of those big plays. I don't hold that against him. Coming up next, the Monday mailbag. Your questions, all topics are fair. All topics will be considered. Shoot me an email, grantbills21@gmail.com. We'll futz around with some grab-ass topics next to wrap up the show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Because the mail never stops. Charles, we'll be writing to you.
She's got mail. That's the name of the
That's
book.
it, honey. There's never a let up. It's relentless. Every day it piles up more and more and more. And you got to get it up. And the more you get out, the more it keeps coming in.
Oh, the Monday mailbag. Fun to rant about the Badgers a little bit, but we can rant about some other stupid things. Your questions coming in. GrantBills21@gmail.com. Tyler and Mass, a frequent asker. I love this question. This will bring us together. This is unifying. It says, we just passed the 40th anniversary of the Nintendo Entertainment System. What are your favorite memories of the console or any Nintendo product? I never had an NES. I never had a GameCube. I had a Wii. And these kids these days, they just can't understand what a massive deal that thing was when it came out. 3 games came to mind. None else are close. If we're talking Nintendo. Mario Super Sluggers, incredible game. Could play it for hours. Mario Kart Wii, it's just, there's never been anything like it. And Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And I know some of you will be like, oh, the N64 version is better. Okay, well then play your N64 version. I never had a GameCube or an N64. So those 3 games, generational. Jake says, hey, Grant, I don't have a question, but would like to remind you that the Big Rivers Conference has 2 Division I playoff games this Friday at 7 p.m. Wanakee holds Chippewa Falls and Hudson hosts Sun Prairie East at their abomination of a $10 million field. I wonder who Jacob is pulling for. Good luck to all the kids under the Friday Night Lights. Interesting enough, Bobby's World on the live stream says totally off subject. WIAA playoffs are here. Let's go River Falls. Wildcats, right? I believe so. Josh says, who employs Mike Clemens? This is actually a fascinating question. He's on your show, Bill's show, the Green Bay Packers, Brewers, and other Wisconsin sports teams. Who actually pays him? Everyone or just one organization? This is a great question. And I am not entirely sure. I think Bill, but I don't know. I tell you who doesn't pay him. Me. I can tell you for sure who doesn't pay him, and that is me. Now, I pay him in thanks and praise. It is right to give him thanks and praise. But I think it's some common. I don't know. I don't know. That's why that's a hilarious question to me. It's because I don't know. Mike says, today I got the cast off my right hand. My hand looks like it belongs to Frankenstein. Too bad it's not Halloween because I would look really creepy handing out candy. Got a brace now. 3 more weeks of that. Coyote Mike. More of a comment, really. Normally, I got really tan dogs. I got really tan feet because I wear my Chacos a lot in the summer. But this summer, I had a walking boot on my left foot for most of it. And the difference between a walking boot and like a Chaco or a Teva sandal was just too much. So I wore this white, well, I'll show it on the camera if you're watching. Just a white Adidas. You know, nothing crazy. But now I take my socks off. Ew. It's like I got marshmallows on the end of my legs. Question from Cade coming in. GrantBills21@gmail.com, by the way, says, what are you doing to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Edmund Fitzgerald sinking? Well, we're not saying, commemorate, not celebrate. 29 died. Well, that's a good question. This is a battle I fight every year at this time. I'm going to hit up Rick Mixter probably this week. He's the guest who's been doing a hit with us for 4 years, 3 years. He's the best. And by the way, if you want to get ready for it next month, there's so many of his lectures and specials are on YouTube. And they're all awesome. So would recommend. Just look up Rick Mixter, Lake Fury, or Edmund Fitzgerald. Like it'll all come up. And then you can get in the weeds on some other shipwrecks and some other, the great storms of the last 100, 200 years. So we'll probably have Rick, I hope. He was just in Madison not that long ago at the Capitol doing something. I don't know what he was politicking or lobbying for. I'm not sure. But I hope to have Rick. And then I normally try to find somebody else. 2 years ago, we had Bruce from the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum. Last year, we had Jay from the Duluth News Tribune. And we talked about the DJ that first played the song on the radio up there back in whatever year it was. I don't know, Kate. Here's the difficult thing. This happened 50 years ago. And there haven't exactly been a lot of new developments. Like, it's mostly been what it's been. And the song about it has been out since the 70s too. So finding unique guests, difficult, but not impossible. That's why they pay me that. We'll have someone. How's that sound? I don't know. We'll have somebody. And it'll be great. And we'll, play the song and do the thing that we've done every year for the last couple of years. Mike Clemens, speak of the devil, check maybe bounced. He will not be with us tomorrow. He'll be traveling. So maybe we can dig a little bit deeper into the Badgers tomorrow. Maybe we can have Zach on. It's been a little bit. Love anytime we have a time to talk with Zach. Here's my statement on the Badgers today. And this probably wouldn't have even made the show rundown if not for the statement that Chris McIntosh put out. I understand there's a lot of frustration with the university. They need to invest more, and they need to be more bought in, and they need to support the football programs more. And I agree. That's the reality. What I think a lot of people forget and what a lot of people discount or don't consider when we have these conversations is they did something pretty big a couple of years ago. They gave Luke Fickell, who was maybe the best available candidate that anybody would have loved to have at the time, $8 million a year. That's a pretty significant investment. And hiring a coach alone should not win you a national title. I'm an idiot and know very little about the mechanics of college football relative to some other people who are on the show. I know more than the average bear, but I probably know less than a lot of you if you're really nerdy and into this stuff. However, I feel fairly confident saying that Wisconsin probably figured that spending $8 million on the top coach available would net them something a little bit better than being what they are now, which might just be the worst team in the Power Four. So everyone can yell at Jennifer Mnuchin, oh, she doesn't even like sports. And we can yell at Chris McIntosh. Fine, sure. But the reality is, not that long ago, the university committed to almost $8 million a year on a head coach who lots of programs would have loved to have. And I'm not saying that Luke Fickell should be winning the Big Ten. He should be better than this. Holy balls, he should be better than this. And I would imagine that's what they're thinking at UW too. It's like, well, geez, we thought we'd go get a great coach and we'd have time to deal with this other stuff. All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow at 4. Podcast will go up in just a couple of minutes. Thank you for listening always.